What is up, my fellow parents? Hey, Jordan and I are here because we love your family. We want you to raise awesome, amazing kids. And we've got some important things that we want to talk about with you and with each other. You know, many families really rock it when it comes to these rites of passage, the way of kind of coming along our sons and daughters to sending a message to them. Hey, you are one of us. You are an adult now. We view you differently. As we know, many cultures, they are thriving in these rites of passage ceremonies. It's like they rock it. They do such a cool, creative things, these young people. And today, Jordan and I are going to take a few minutes to inspire you, to tell you what other families have done with rites of passage, to inspire you to use them with your children, to open your mind to some creative ideas, to talk briefly about some of the dangers that we all face if we do not thrive as parents, ushering our kids into adulthood through adolescence. During the Ask a Family Coach section, I'm going to give you 3 tips that are really going to be really helpful. Some things that I've learned over 25 years of working with your sons and daughters. And I think today is really going to change your parenting and change your life. So Jordan, when you hear rites of passage ceremony, what comes up for you, man? What do you think about?
I mean, I think what's interesting is how you intro that. And I think it's important for us all to realize that, like, rites of passage is basically something that you can do as your family. I wouldn't look at society as like a thing that understands rites of passages. Here in America, we have lost our way. We've lost our rites of passage. We could say, hey, you're 18, you're an adult, you can vote, you can go fight for us and die, but you can't drink yet till you're 21. Like there are different stages when it comes to age that we try to say is a rite of passage, but the reality is it's not. Society's lost. We don't understand what a rite of passage is. So this is going to be very personal for a lot of us. And that's what's great about America, is because we're going to bring our cultures in and have different rites of passage. So if you've got anybody who's maybe, a Hispanic culture, you've got quinceañeras that you've probably gone to, or maybe you've got some friends that are Jewish and you've got bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, right? And so that's what's cool about this country, is we've got a little bit of everything. So we just need to figure out what's best for us, what's best for our kids, and kind of because ultimately, what are we trying to do? And I think that's what you're trying to set up us for, is we're trying to get these kids to be adults.
Yeah.
And it's a statement when you can have like a party that says, hey man, you've done it. You've made it. Congratulations. Like you're an adult now.
Yeah, man. Now, I want to share a personal story with you right off the bat here as we open up this podcast. This is very, very personal to me. In fact, only a few people even know this story, and now I'm just sharing it publicly with the world. So let's go back in time. Let's see. Go back in time, a long time. Danielle and I just celebrated 20 years of marriage. So yes, thank you, Danielle. Thank you, friends and family. Thank you, God, for helping us through this. This story takes place about 21 years ago, Jordan.
So before you were married, okay.
Before I was married.
Were you with Danielle yet?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I hadn't even met her. And I was doing a lot of journaling at that time. In fact, I was living with you and your mom at that time. I was really doing a lot of journaling. I was a young man in my early 20s, and I just had this feeling, Jordan. I had this strong feeling. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was from God. I don't know if it's probably from God. I don't know, that one day I was going to be a dad and I was going to have a daughter. I just had this feeling.
That's so cool.
And I also had
I've had that feeling too, by the way. It's a great feeling. Yeah, it's a great feeling.
It was just before, and this is obviously before.
Before. Yeah. I knew it's like you have an inkling. I know I'm going to be a dad to a girl.
Inkling is calling. I just felt like this presence was telling me, I'm preparing you to be a dad one day, and it's going to be of a girl. And so I opened up my journal at the time, and I wrote a letter to my unborn daughter.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I entitled the letter in my journal, to my daughter on her 12th birthday.
Wow.
And I wrote a love letter to her as a rites of passage ceremony, that she's turning 12 today, and how much I love her, how I've been thinking about her before she was even born.
Yeah, but you didn't even know what that feeling was like. That's insane that you had that vision.
And in the letter, I told her, I'm reading this to you, and I've been thinking about you every day since even before you were born, and that I will always be there for you. I'm thankful to be in your life. I'm not going to read it to you. And I chose that purposely because it's private, right? And I wrote it in a way that if I ever did have more than one daughter, I could read it to each daughter.
So I was just going to ask, when you said I'm not going to read it to you, were you talking to us, the audience, or were you saying
Yeah.
you're not going to read it to your daughter? Oh, okay.
No,
So you
no.
did read it to your daughter.
So,
Good. I was
so I have,
all right.
so I have three daughters. At this time, this podcast is filmed. One daughter is 18, and I took her out to the Cheesecake Factory when she was 12 years old.
You in the Cheesecake Factory. You
Well,
love
dude,
that place.
Dude, I do. I just actually
You
went there
love that
over the
place.
weekend. Dude, they have the best salad dressings, man.
You are so funny. I don't think that's the first time you've talked about Cheesecake Factory on this podcast.
It was her choice, her restaurant of choice.
Okay, all right.
The tradition is, my daughters, I take them out for a father-daughter date night, and you get to, restaurant of your choice. We're going to dress up, and I read about 6 years ago, I read that letter to my oldest daughter on her 12th birthday. And then my next daughter, her name's Miley. She's 14 at this time. And she chose this restaurant, which is called the Lazy Dog. And I took her out and I read the letter to her on her 12th birthday. It's just me, a love letter to her, but also ushering her, into young adulthood, and me just calling her a young woman and reminding her of my commitment to her. And then I have one more daughter. She's 7 right now. So 5 years from now, I'm going to take her out to the restaurant of her choice, and it might be the Cheesecake Factory, and you might tease me for it. And that's something I've done. It's just very, very special for me.
How was it for them though, hearing those words and knowing that it's almost like a rite of passage for them?
I can't speak for them, and I want to honor their privacy, but I think it was just very emotional for them, if you know what I mean. And so
that makes sense.
What I will do is that as soon as I release this podcast, I will post on social media a video, because Miley gave me permission to make a video of that night of us together.
That's great.
I even started, you can even hear the first couple sentences of the letter, because she let me film it as I started reading it to her. So when you come out to this podcast, go to my social media channels and you can see Miley, you can see us, and you see a little video. And so I think just rites of passage are a key, part of just...
What made you pick the age 12?
I really like that question, because if you ask 10 parents, at what age do your children become young adults? You're going to get 10 different responses. And what you're about to hear, for those of us listening, as we share a couple fun stories about rites of passage ceremonies that throughout the world, you'll see that it kind of varies. I think for most cultures, it starts, around age 11 or 12. What I learned interesting, even about a bar mitzvah and a bat mitzvah, is that it's 12 for, it's upon reaching 13 for boys. And in the Jewish culture, it's 12 for girls. So it's different ages. And so for me, what I have come to the conclusion with is I like age 12 or 13. It's like that, around that grade 6, I really feel like that was a big shift. I know that even for me too, like when I was in the 6th grade, my world definitely changed. I started doing a lot more mature things, adult-like things, the hormones, the independence. And I think it's just such a powerful thing for an adult or an adult community or a family to look at a young adult and say, look, you're one of us now. You're young, but you are
young adult. I like that terminology.
Adult.
Yes,
you are
a young adult.
And just to give them that identity, to speak that truth over them. And that's where we're going to talk about how to do that properly, why to do it, the dangers of not doing that today. How about you? If you just putting you on the spot, if you were to say,
I was literally just talking about this today at work. I mean, it's getting very interesting, and I don't want to get too much into the details on it, but think about a young woman's natural monthly cycle.
Yes.
Okay. And we were talking about this at work.
Yeah.
The age is changing from what it used to be, maybe from when adults first got their cycle to what the kids are getting it now. I mean, we're talking 9, 10-year-old girls are beginning to get the cycle now.
Interesting.
And that is a rites of passage because you've become a woman, so to speak, at that age. But you're a 10-year-old little girl.
Oh my gosh.
It's so hard. So
wild.
I like how you say the age is different, and maybe there's multiple rites of passages here, which is great. And that helps us become more of an adult, Yeah. There's different stages.
You're right. It really is. We're going to get into some more details later, but on the surface, other things, here's some examples of rites of passage, that often are not talked about is prom. How about
That's a
even
good one.
getting
High s-
married,
Right.
graduation, even a retirement party, or even for some
Mm-hmm.
people, like immigrants, that citizenship where you become a
Oh,
U.S.
that's a big
citizen.
deal.
That's a
That's a great
huge,
deal.
huge deal.
Right.
But yeah, that's really interesting. On a side note, I've read some research, and just take this with a grain of salt because I think it's very complicated. It's probably very controversial that some daughters who have a very tight, closely knit relationship with their father,
Mm-hmm.
they are starting their cycle much later than other girls are. Take that with a grain of salt, but there's a lot
Okay.
of research and changing going on right now with when girls are starting their cycles, why they're starting them.
See, I thought
And
it had to do with the food and what we're eating and the hormones. So that's interesting. I'd love to obviously dig into that. Not now, but
not now. Yeah. I mean, I
figuring
would
that
think
out is
first thing that
interesting.
comes to mind for me is social media. Like my
Mm-hmm.
one of my daughters and I were talking about how mature this 111-year-old girl we just met was, and my daughter's response was, "Yeah, that's what social media is doing to these kids. They are growing up fast, and they are thinking
Yeah.
about adult things. They are talking like adult things. They want to be adult, and so yeah, there's this kind of lack of childhood innocence that is happening with some of our kids. They're becoming more adult like at a younger age. But that's not what we're going to focus on today. We're talking about how to use our power wisely, this beautiful thing called rites of passage. Did your parents do any rites of passage with you growing up?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we did the normal. I had a cool 16-year, birthday party.
Okay.
We had a graduation party, but there was never anything definitive. And I think for me, going from high school to college was that rites of
Oh,
passage
yeah.
because it was my first time out of the house
Yep.
on my own,
Yep.
and I realized that like I didn't want my parents to provide for me anymore. I
Uh-huh.
wanted to provide for myself.
Yeah.
And so it was like I want to get a job. I
Yeah.
want to try and start to pay for things. I don't want to ask for any money. And so I guess it was right there around that age of 18 where
Yeah.
I wanted to take that leap
Yeah.
and become an adult for myself.
I've been my parents didn't do anything like that for me growing up. Gosh, I wish they did. But I have been a part a couple times, two or three times, of other people's rites of passage ceremonies. So, like at when my friend Matt Salovich turned 18 years old, and I called him my friend, even though I was much older. I was mentoring him. His parents contacted me and some other men in Matt's life, and his dad all organized it. And we met up at this one place and had all these men here, and we each read personal letters to Matt. We each, I think, maybe even gave him like a personalized gift, like something he
Mm-hmm.
can walk away from. And it was just
Mm-hmm.
this way to just love on Matt and just say, hey, welcome to adulthood, Matt Salovich. And Matt is now
That's awesome.
a grown man, and he's a successful businessman in New York City. I think he's probably close to his late 20s, and we're still close to this day. And so, but
It
let's.
just shows you the importance of what these rites of passages can do. I mean, think
Mhm.
about your baptism. If you get baptized, that's a big party, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it
that's a
is.
big rite
It
of
is.
passage, getting
It,
baptized.
it really is. That's actually kind of an underrated thing people don't talk about. Like in the Christian culture, to have a teenager or an adult choose
Mm-hmm.
to publicly like get dunked in a tank in front of a whole church, or maybe even share out loud this is their personal faith. This is really, really, really important. It just sends a message to yourself and to the community like, I'm ready for this. This is where I'm
Right.
at. I believe in this. This is what I want.
Many people listening to the podcast probably know I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. So when me and Danny did the class, right, we went and did Unleash the Power Within. After day one, you walk on coals. And that was a rites of passage. After
Wow.
you learn day one how to take control of your
Cool.
mind, you walk on coals. But some people might think that's silly. That's nothing compared to what some of these other countries do to their to their kids when it comes to rites of passage.
It's
I mean,
nothing. Let's
it's
talk about it.
wild.
Let's talk about it. Okay, first. Okay, first let's. So Jordan and I, just to help you, inspire you, to entertain you, we want to share some things that we found of what other cultures are doing. Now we found about 30 different stories. We're not going to share 30 stories with you today, but we want to just take some of our favorite ones to and share about what you could. And as you listen to these, we take these with total respect for all cultures. We just want to enjoy them and react to them. And we want to use this episode to help you think of what are some creative things you can do for your children, or even, even if they come around 18, 21, some creative things you do to usher them into adulthood. So Jordan,
Good.
a couple
What?
things. Two of
Okay.
my favorite ones have already been talked about before, but I I'm really a big fan of bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, and I'm really a big
That's a
fan
good age too,
of
right?
quinceañeras. Yeah,
Yeah, those are good ages,
they
right, to
really
do
are.
some of this
We
stuff.
got
I like
12,
that.
13, we got 15, because when done right, what these cultures are doing is they really are sending a strong message. Like, look, this is how we view you now. We want you to take this seriously. In a bar mitzvah, I mean, the young person has to go and stand up in front of the whole synagogue and recite certain things. That's a big pressure point. Quinceañera is a pressure because you have all these people looking at you, celebrating you, loving you, bringing the whole community together. These are really, really great things. And when they're done
I
right,
agree.
because if we just turn them into these parties with alcohol or big
Hmm.
celebrations, I think you're missing the point. The point of this is this message of like, this is where you're at, and this is where you're going to be starting today. And we're going to change. You're going to change. The expectations are going to change. The parenting is going to change. Welcome to adulthood. If you don't hit that message, you just have a party, then I think you're missing something really
I
beautiful.
agree. I agree. And I like what you did with your buddy where you guys all read letters to each other. That's like very meaningful. We don't see a lot of that anymore. And I think that's really cool. So those are easy going. I'm going to go with one that's a little bit more gnarly, so to speak,
Gnarly,
okay?
yeah.
Okay?
I'll do a gnarly one
And
after you do gnarly, yeah.
okay? And so the ages here are between the ages of 10 and 20. And I'm sure this culture will figure out
Okay.
what age is best for that person. And this is going to be in Tanzania and Kenya. Okay. I think
Okay.
it's called the Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania.
Okay.
They've got several rites of passage. They're trying to carry their boys into manhood. So
Okay.
between that age, 10
What
to
do they do?
20,
What do they do?
you got to become the new warrior class, the new warrior tribe. And so they place these, kids or, young adults in to these houses. The night before the ceremony, the boys go to sleep outside in the forest.
Okay.
At dawn, they return for a day of singing, dancing. It's a party like you talked about, but there's a meaning behind it. They drink a mixture of alcohol, okay,
Okay.
cow's blood, milk. They consume a large portion of meat,
Oh.
okay? So it's
Oh.
just basically like a festival for,
Yeah.
that type of culture.
Oh,
But
wow.
then when they're done,
Yeah.
they have to be circumcised in that
Ooh.
moment, at that age, and
Oh.
in that transformation to becoming a man, they are not allowed
Ooh.
to make a noise. No
Oh.
ouch, no that hurts.
Wow.
Just stay stoic and move
Yes.
on to becoming adults.
Wow.
That, my friend,
Snip,
is a little
snip.
deep.
Oh, that cuts deep.
That cuts deep.
But yeah, what a ceremony to be around other men, to be
Yeah,
exposed like that, no pun intended,
right.
and to really say, hey, we need to have self control right here, because being a man is about self control. That
Yep.
is a good. Here. How about this one? Here's something they do out of Brazil, right? Forgive me if you're from Brazil and if I'm butchering the name. They call this the Satiri Maui bullet ant initiation. Okay,
Oh,
emphasize
yeah.
on bullet ant. All right.
Okay.
Now, boys as young as 12, they get to put on gloves. All right. How's that sound so far? Not a big deal.
Easy. Easy
But
peasy.
these gloves are full with bullet ants, and they sting so bad they're like getting stung by a bee probably, and they have to wear these gloves for 10 minutes.
Oh
And
my
why are they
gosh.
doing this? Well, it symbolizes the young boy's endurance, bravery, and their readiness for adult tasks like hunting. Like, you're ready to be a man?
Right. Toughen up.
Wear the gloves. This is what it means to
Right.
be a man. We are ready. You're crossing over. I don't know about that. I think I'd rather have a bar mitzvah or a quinceanera, but what do you got? What's next?
Well, I think it's interesting too because a lot of these cultures they do, especially in the male, category. It's you have to be tough, and so a
Yep.
lot of these
Yep.
challenges or these parties,
Yep.
moving on to becoming a man, you got to be tough and you got to withstand pain.
Yeah, you do. Yep.
We kind of lost that in a lot of
We really have.
a lot of
Yep.
cultures.
We really have. That reminds me of a book that I read. I even made a video on it. Let me see if the name of the book is called something of the American mind. And forgive me for butchering that, but one of the things the sociologists discovered is that one of the problems we have with youth now is that they have these core beliefs. And some, not all youth have these beliefs, but some youth have the beliefs. And one of the beliefs that the author talked about is that, life should not be painful, and any type of painful idea, painful thought, painful belief should be avoided at all cost.
That
And
sounds terrible.
it sounds terrible.
Terrible. I mean, you wouldn't have a diamond if you didn't have rocks smashing together to
Mhm.
create pressure.
Yep.
I mean, you have to have pain in some. I mean, you wouldn't have children. How would you
Yep.
have children?
I know.
So I'm gonna have two here real quick.
Okay.
One
Okay.
one is in Ethiopia. I find it kind of funny. You got to jump over cows, but you have to do it while you're naked. I just think it's hilarious. Participants successfully jump over castrated male cows 4 times while naked, and it symbolizes that the childhood they're leaving that behind. And then this one is downright dangerous in Vanuatu, which is a small island nation in, I believe, the South Pacific.
Yeah.
They have to take their young boys and they have them jump off a 98-foot tall tower. But what they use is not a bungee cord. They use vine. So think of like climbing rope, although climbing rope
I've seen videos of that.
Yeah, and there's no stretch to it. So you're jumping off a 100-foot tall tower, and they said the vine, these kids start when they're 7 or 8 to practice, right? So the vine only goes to where your head basically is just a couple feet above the ground.
Oh god, yeah, I've seen videos of that. It's nuts.
And so it says here that in their first dives, their mother will hold an item representing their childhood. After the jump, the item will be thrown away, symbolizing the end of childhood. As the boys grow older, they will jump from the taller towers, eventually getting to manhood or manliness, that 98-foot tall tower. I'm like, oh my gosh, can you imagine if we did that here?
It's an underrated rites of passage is the Catholics' confirmation. Let me tell you why. Some things I like about that is because what most parishes do is they do it as a group. So you've got these, like, I think sophomores and juniors in high school, and they come to these classes for every week for a period of time, and they go through it together. So it's kind of like your community of faith, and you're coming together. You're seeing it's like a youth group, and these kids don't have to be confirmed. It's like a part of the Catholic tradition. And then they have this ceremony where the bishop lays their hands on the confirmants, praying that the Holy Spirit's outpouring and anointing them. And it's kind of cool because it's such a big deal when you're a sophomore or junior in high school. It's a big deal, like, kind of come and do a class like that, and you're kind of doing it as a community. So you
I like
one or two more.
I really enjoy the Amish because
you really enjoy the Amish. What a great way to start this.
I really do. No, I'm serious.
Yeah,
I love their furniture. I love the idea of their life because they get rid of technology.
They are. They are really standing out.
They're keeping family values strong. And what's great about it is everyone there is choosing to be there. Because their rites of passage says, if anybody's seen the movie Kingpin, you kind of get that idea. But when you turn the age of 16, they let you go and do whatever it is you want to do. You can leave the camp, so to speak, and go out on your own. Explore the world as the world is.
And what's it called? Is it called Rumspringa?
I don't know the term Rumspringa.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Rumspringa. Yeah. So basically, you're allowed at that age. You can just go into modern life, use technology, dabble in alcohol. But the whole idea here is you realize what the world is. And by the age 26 or before, you have to decide what you want. Do you want to live in the world, or do you want to go back and live in the Amish culture and be part of the, the community, so to speak? And so a lot of the times, I don't know the statistics in their community, but they come back because they kind of see the flaws of the world, and they decide that maybe this family dynamic, what technology can do, be destructive, is bad. And so they go back to the simplicities of life.
You know what? Let's just pause for a second. Because here's let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask myself right now. And if you're listening, ask yourself this question. What do these rites of passage ceremonies have in common? Right? What do they have in common? I'll go first. In my work, with families inside of my membership, it can be very, very messy, Jordan. There's a lot of hurting kids out there. kids who are really struggling with their impulses, with their emotions, kids that are screen addicted, struggling with patterns or addictions. There's a lot of hurting parents out there. And my team and I have come up with a lot of strategies to help take, a child from here to a place of health, to help take a really defiant or checked out or really hurting teenager from here into a place of maturity. And one of the things that we've discovered over the years is that doing something drastic, dramatic, or even taking a young person kind of out of their regular world and taking it, like either taking a timeout from that world, a break from that world, or just dropping them into a whole new world can be so freeing, can be so positive. So one of the things I see that some cultures are doing well is that they're taking it's like they have these young people take a timeout on their life and say, we're going to take a break. You're going to do a period of isolation, or you're going to do a period of intense classes, or you're going to do something for a period of time to really take a break on your life to usher you into your next period of life. And it's going to be more adult like, and it's going to be different, and it's going to be higher expectations, and it's going to be better for you. How about you? What do you think?
To me, I think it's any of these rites of passage help the person involved, kids in this case, switch their thought process of I'm a dependent, I need help, to no, I can make a decision for myself, I'm on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think no matter what it is, it's that mindset that shifts in us to become individuals and not to be in need of a parent in every moment, to figure out how to get from point A to point B without asking for directions from your mom or dad. I mean, nowadays you got the phones and all that, but you know what I'm saying? It's
I
like
do.
you are now in control of your own path.
Yeah.
And that's what the idea of this rites of passage is to me,
I like
and
it.
hopefully to everybody else too.
You know what I just thought of? While you were talking, I picked up my phone and I Googled something. My favorite prayer that I've ever heard is called the Prayer of Saint Francis. Have you heard this before? Have you heard of
Maybe.
it?
How does it go?
You've probably heard it. I'm going to read it right now. It's a beautiful prayer. I'm just going to read it and let you decide, how you feel about it or what it means to you. Here's what it says. In your words, it kind of inspired me to read this because I think it's kind of the same thing. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, I may bring love. Where there is wrong, I may bring a spirit of forgiveness. Where there is discord, I may bring harmony. Where there is error, I may bring truth. Where there is doubt, I may bring faith. Where there is despair, I may bring hope. Where there are shadows, I may bring light. Where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, and it is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life.
That's good. That's a lot of awareness right there, because a lot of people want things. And ultimately, this prayer is saying, use me where
Yeah.
I am needed. But
Yeah.
ultimately, where you are what you need. Like it's like, I would love to be loved, but in order for you to be loved, it's saying you need to go in love.
Yeah, man.
And understand what love is before you can receive
buddy.
it. I like that.
One thing that, comes to mind for me is, it's Sean, it's not about you.
Right.
It's not about you. You were a child and it was about you. And now you're a man. And it's
Correct.
not about you anymore. It's about you are a servant. You are a light. You are a leader and you lead by service and by giving and by charity and by gratitude and by building other people up. So thanks for sharing that, man. That inspired me to share that. I hope
Thank you for
listening
sharing
to
that.
So let me ask you, Jordan, and for everyone listening. Okay, if rites of passage is good, it's what we want to do. It's a healthy way of raising great kids. What would be the opposite of that? What would be
Not
the
doing anything.
antonym Yeah, what would be the
Oh,
antonym?
doing what that doctor said that you were just talking about, or that author, where it's like, we don't want pain, live pain free. It's like doing that. It's like,
Right.
let's just sit on the couch and
Right.
stay in the house.
Well, I think we need to discuss this because I think there's a lot of parents that are really doing rites of passage well, but I think no one ever talks about this. I'm about to say
No,
it right now.
it's not big in our society.
There's a lot
In
of
fact,
parents who are not doing it and are really doing a poor job of rites of passage. They're failing at rites
yeah,
of passage. No one ever talks about that. That's the first time I ever said anything like that.
we need to create a good American rites of passage.
Oh, what would
We
that
need
be
to come up.
like? Yeah,
I don't know,
what do you
man.
mean? What do you mean?
Well,
Like,
I mean,
yeah,
we just get like, what do we got? The Sweet 16. Like I said in the
Sweet
beginning, what's
16.
great is we have a blend of cultures, which makes up
Okay.
America, so we can bring those cultures here, and we could do our own rites of passage.
Ooh,
However, wouldn't it be kind of nice if there was a rites of passage that you could choose that's American?
there would
So
be.
what is American? What does it mean to be an American?
Well, I'm
Well,
like an Irish American or Swedish
right.
American. I don't have
You could
one.
you don't have
so
one.
what would I?
So
Yeah.
so let's go to the Constitution.
Oh,
My
okay.
thought is like, what is it to me to be an American? It's, well,
Okay.
let's read the Constitution. And I'm like, it probably has to do with the Second Amendment, right to bear freaking arms. Maybe we
Okay.
need to do something
Okay.
with
Okay.
artillery, with
The hunter.
guns.
The hunter.
The hunter
Jordan's
coming out.
The hunter.
And it's
Okay.
like, listen, now you can shoot a bazooka once you get that handle.
Bazooka? Was that what you 1985 bazooka? Oh
I know,
my
I'm
god.
teasing.
No, I know
But
you
I'm
are.
like,
Yeah.
what is American? Like, you could think the American West, cowboy riding. Maybe we have to ride a bull. That sounds really dangerous.
That would
But
be-
maybe it's like
yeah.
learning to shoot. Like, that's a right you have as an American, which I think is pretty cool that a lot of people don't take advantage of. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
rite of passage.
Mhm.
I don't know what the answer is,
I don't
but I
know
think we
either.
need to come up with one that's pretty cool.
I think you're onto something here, and I would like to believe that somebody is going to come up with something like that. That's like more Americanized, right?
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is not a bazooka, which would be some type of charity, like getting a young person involved in some type of charity or giving. This is why, like, you know what is really cool rites of passage is the Eagle Scouts. They have to do a service project, a legit service project. That's why, I mean, if you meet someone who's an Eagle Scout or Advanced Boy Scout, you're probably meeting a great young man or young person, right? Rites of
Sean,
passage.
that is really boring. Let's get some tannerite and blow some stuff up.
Yeah. So let's go on the opposite. Let's go a little darker for a second. Okay.
Okay.
If a parent struggles in rites of passage, what is the opposite of that? I got a term. You might have heard of this term before. It's been around for a while. It's called extended adolescence. So Jordan,
Ooh.
now there's a lot
Adults-
of controversy. There's a lot of stuff around this. When you hear that term, what comes up for you? Extended adolescence.
Our society right now. I mean, you got 20, 30, and 40-year-olds living with their parents still. And we talk about that. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you be an adult if you can't take care of yourself?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And you have to rely on others. That's one of the things that these cultures are saying. You are now an adult. You are taking steps to take care of you and your family.
Yep.
Not allowing your family to continue to take care of you.
Yep.
And that's why that age is very interesting, that 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
Yep.
or maybe even older. I mean, it depends. But if you have an extended adolescence,
Mm-hmm.
you're still a child at 28, 29, 30 years old.
So sociologists have discovered that we've had here in America, we've had extended adolescence for several decades now. One of the ways of describing it is that we're letting children be children for longer. We are
Right.
not demanding or asking young people to become adults. One of the great manifestations of that is this thing called college, where some people, they get to go off to college for a period of time, drink, do drugs, just party, maybe take a few classes, and they don't really have to become adults
Right.
very longer. Then
'Cause
maybe take a
they're
gap
prolonging
year.
the adulthood.
Yeah, they take a gap
Yep,
year.
then they
Maybe they
take a
come
gap year.
home. Maybe they live under their parents' roof. Now
Don't
compare
get a job
this
yet.
to some
Right.
of these stories we just read of people wearing ant gloves and jumping over cows naked
Right.
and
right.
going out in the woods by themselves or giving a big speech in front of a big class. Like, this is so opposite. I had a client tell me just recently, I'm not shaming this client at all. This is very common. The client has a serious problem on their hands because their young adult is screen addicted. And so they're talking about doing an extended screen fast.
How old? Just give us an age range just so we kind of
16,
get an idea.
16.
Okay, thank you.
And I have an ebook. I have an ebook called The Parent's Guide to Breaking Screen Addiction. It gives lots of tools and ideas. And one of the tools in there is how to do a screen fast properly. And just like any loving mom, I've heard this many, many times, the mother is really afraid that if you do a screen fast, it's going to make things worse. And also, well, where is my son going to talk to their friends? Because all their
Oh
friends are
my
online.
gosh.
But if you
What?
think about that, now just compare that fear of this young person taking some time away from video games to some of these other
Jeez.
stories we've talked about. It's like this is where
Yeah.
extended adolescence comes in. It's really one of the ways it happens is because us parents, we are afraid. We are afraid of ushering our kids into adulthood, into that tension, into the fear, into
Why are we
pushing them.
afraid and our parents weren't afraid? Why
Yeah,
is that? My wife's
gosh,
dad made her go door to door at age 5 to find friends.
dude,
Go
that's
knock on the
such a
door.
great
Go find a
story.
friend.
It's such a
Yeah.
great story, and
It's
it
like we
worked.
don't. What
One of
is
her best
it?
friends.
Yes. Why do we not do that? Why are we?
Dude,
What are we scared of?
we have a whole episode on that. I think didn't we make a whole episode about like are we pampering our kids? We
Yeah,
made that. I
yeah.
think.
I'm just throwing that question out to anybody listening. What are you afraid of? What am I afraid of? What are we afraid of?
Yeah, sit on that, everybody. Sit on that. What fears are holding you back from being
Like literally, it
the
makes me
parent you
want
want to be?
to turn off internet and not like for a month. Say disconnection.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
No
sure do.
electricity for a week. Just something to like.
Electricity. You went a little
Yeah,
extreme right there. Well, come on,
dude, I'm going Amish on you. Okay,
Yeah.
you don't even realize.
Yeah,
So I'm just saying, big. You need to make big moves. You need to. I mean, you're not.
do
We
not
can't
be
baby
afraid.
these
Yeah,
kids forever.
I think it's so much. I've been I have a lot to say on that topic. Here's what I've heard from a lot of parents, and I've read this in research too. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but here's two things I heard to answer your question. There's a culture now of parents, especially moms, who they want their kids to be kids. They enjoy like waking their 16-year-old up for school. They enjoy pampering them. They enjoy giving them a stress-free childhood or being a lawnmower parent. And they feel like, you know what, my kid is going to have a lot of years of adulthood and I just enjoy this and I want them to be babies and to just be kids forever. And it's fun.
So it's selfishness on the parents potentially.
That's what I guess you could look at it that way. I guess I wasn't
I'm
going
looking
there,
at it that
but
way
yeah.
because they're being selfish to not allow them to push their kids because they want to potentially still parent their kids for longer.
Yeah, I think for some, second point, I think for some, there's trauma involved in that the parent.
But there's been trauma forever.
Yeah.
You know,
Either
like
the
we
parent
can't
has,
use that
they have
as
it's
an
popular.
excuse.
It's a big, the T word, the trauma word is a big. Either the parent was traumatized and they're kind of still living and parenting in their trauma, or the child has been through trauma and they're like, my child's been through trauma and I just want them to
Everyone's
be
been
happy
through
now.
trauma.
It's very complicated. I know, but let's talk really briefly about this. What would happen if you do rites of passage very well? Think about that for a second. What would happen to your child?
You'd have
If you
amazing
and your
young adults.
community thrive in rites of passage. Now, answer this question. Let's sit on this for about 2 or 3 minutes because I don't want to make a whole episode out of this. It's kind of dark and depressing. What would happen if you, the parent, do rites of passage horribly, poorly? What if you fail to usher your child into proper adulthood at age 12, at age 15?
A lot of us are yelling right now, be like, "Well, just look at America. Look where we are as a world." Okay, let's focus it down a little more because you could yell that answer. Focus it as in your family. Like, let's all think: if I were to fail, how would my family be?
Mm-hmm.
And let's think the next couple years what that would look like. It's depressing.
I did a lot of research preparing for this episode, and I found a lot of articles about extended adolescence. And here's something interesting. Here's an opinion article from a website called lifeway.com where this author is writing about 6 downsides to really struggling at rites of passage. And I'm just going to share some of the bullet points. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, the first one is, he writes, is compromised maturity. Is that you've got young adults in adult bodies, but they just are acting like children.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Okay.
Number 2?
Yeah. No, I agree. I've seen that.
Fathers who are only friends. Mothers who are only friends. Here's the point.
With the child.
Yep,
We've talked about that a lot.
It's like their efforts in parenting are like their efforts in high school. The parents just want to be liked. They want to be accepted. And they'd rather just be liked and accepted rather than influence and guide.
Yeah. And that's probably more likely. I mean, not necessarily more likely, but common in divorced families too, because you want to be the parent that is liked more than the other parent
Mhm.
potentially, because you're hurt by the other parent. So you're
Mhm.
like, well, if my kid likes me more, that's better. So I'm just going to give them everything they want,
Mhm. The author
even though
writes
it's
number
not the
3
best.
point, subsided pictorial of manhood or proper, womanhood is what I'll add
What does
there.
that mean?
I don't really
Subsized
know what it means.
pictorial
The
of
author writes
manhood.
like when a younger male sees a man living like this. Okay, so let's say that you have a younger sibling, or you
Okay.
have a nephew, or you have a neighbor, and you see like
Okay.
a man child who's 21, right, or 23. Well,
Yeah.
then it becomes normal for them. Like, why would I need to grow up? Look at my next
Right.
door neighbor. What about my older brother?
Right.
He's not growing up.
Okay.
It just creates a cultural norm. That's what we have going on. It becomes more normal to not grow up and
Right.
to not make mature choices or think. Now, I really, really like the next point. This is actually the only reason why I chose to talk about this Lifeway article is for this next point. You ready for this? The author writes, unmarried women. Let me explain. As the pool of men is already quite slim for women. Let me
Okay.
rephrase that. As the pool of mature quality young men
Okay. Yeah.
is
Makes
already
sense. Already slim.
slim for
Yeah.
women,
Yep.
it will get even more challenging as they are faced with men who are unfit for marriage. So I'm trying to think about
Yeah.
my daughters. Okay. Let's say that they want to marry young in their early 20s or in their mid 20s, which is
Right.
not young.
Right.
And let's go back 20 years. How many men were ready to be married at age
Married.
25? A
Right.
lot more
Now, n-
then
yeah.
than
Well, now
now.
you've got these social media, you've got dating apps, you just swipe left or right, up and down, wherever the heck you swipe just to get another woman in bed. And it's not allowing for
Mhm.
companionship, it's not
Right.
allowing for relationships.
Yep.
That's hard for these young
Right.
women to
Yeah.
be in.
Yeah.
So, how do we as
Yep.
parents,
Yep.
gosh, it almost goes back to like arranged marriages makes more more sense than because it's like at least you can see
Yeah.
how they're, oh, this one looks a little
Yes.
bit more mature, you
Yeah.
should go after this one.
This one's going to piss you off and make you amped up. I'm ready for this. Unhirable young adults.
Oh, there's a ton of those out there.
So if you do not, if you struggle with rites of passage, it means that there's a chance that between the ages of 18 and 25, your child is going to struggle in getting hiring, or even let's go 16 through 25. They are
and
not going to be good at getting a job and keeping a job.
and I know many of you have scrolled through social media recently, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, but the trend right now that I'm seeing are all these, whatever age group we're in, I'm a millennial, whatever you were in
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
are going out of college, they're getting jobs, and they're realizing what it's like to be in the real world. And they're talking to their quote unquote friends or their followers, crying on the screen, saying, "This is so hard. I
Yes.
worked 8 hours and there's
Yes.
taxes taken out,
I know.
blah, blah, blah,"
Yeah, buddy.
because their parents
Yeah.
failed to properly train
Yeah.
them for what the world is really like. And that's
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah. And they're in shock now. They're in shock.
They're in shock. They're
Like,
like,
why
this
is
is
the
what it's
world so
like.
hard for me? Why is everyone
Right.
treating me
But it's
so
not.
bad?
It's been like this
Right.
forever.
It says more about the parenting. Now, number 6 is really interesting. Again, remember, everybody, this is just an opinion piece, and I'm just paraphrasing from an opinion piece. Number 6, life lived in fantasy.
Ooh, the Oculus.
Author
Digital
writes
world.
this. This might be the most frightening of all.
Yeah,
Men
definitely.
in extended childhood treat their lives like one big fantasy world. They engage others through artificial means like
Yep.
pornography, social media,
Mm-hmm.
and video games instead of real life.
What's that movie?
Wow.
What is that? Ready Player One,
Oh,
right?
that's a
A
good
lot of
movie.
people,
That's
it's
a
a
good
great
movie.
movie.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
But his best friends in the digital realm, he didn't even know what they looked like.
Yeah.
He met them in the real world and he's like, "Oh, you're 11?" Like it's what it's like living in that
That's pretty
social
common
realm. You don't know what
nowadays,
people
man. That's
look
pretty
like.
common. And yeah, you'd have to ask 10 different people, even 10 specialists, is that healthy for our kids to have virtual friends or to have, you know, like online friends versus in person friends? But I think, in my experience, I would say it's not unhealthy to have virtual online friends. I've seen a lot of healthy teenagers have them. There needs to be balance. Like you need to have in-person friends. It's just a no-brainer. I don't need to tell you the
Mm-hmm.
research on that. So, Jordan, there's lots of benefits to thriving rites of passage.
Right.
And there's some really negative, dark stuff that can happen if the parents struggle in rites of passage. But we're here because we want to help people thrive with rites of
Correct.
passage.
So as we get to the Ask the Family Coach section, a lot of us are thinking, okay, we get it. We need to do something. But the more important thing is how do we wisely use these rites of passage with our young adults? And I know you got some tools for us, but I guess as some of us are listening to this, we have kids, maybe teenagers or younger. We need to start thinking about what we want to do and what's important to us, I'm assuming, right?
I got 3 tips for you, and I'm really
Okay.
excited to share this with you, okay? The first tip is they're all very simple. It's just plan ahead. Plan ahead. I was planning for mine 13 years before it even happened. So think, what do you
Right.
want to do? Jordan and I, we gave you a ton of creative ideas today. Do you want to put, you want to put some gloves on your kids? You want to take
Right.
them out for a camping trip? Do you want to do
Yeah.
like a baptism, a confirmation, a bat mitzvahs? Do you want to do a big party? Do you want to gather the people? Plan ahead and make
Plan
it
ahead.
big, make it dramatic, and do it. Right?
One of the big ones, guys, when I was growing up, Sean Don was like, hey, guys, we're going to go cow tipping. So we grabbed a van. We all piled in the van. We drove out to rural California,
Yeah,
and
we
we
did.
tried to tip. It didn't work out. I'll
It
tell you
didn't
what,
work
right
out.
now.
I don't know if
The
it's
rancher
real or
was not
not.
happy.
I don't know if it's real.
No,
I've never,
cows lay down. They don't
They do.
sleep standing.
They do.
lay down.
And they
Come
don't
on.
and they don't really, but I've done this. I've probably gone cow tipping probably 15 times. I've never once seen a cow sleeping, standing up.
Yeah,
And I've
right.
walked upon many cows, and you were there. And first of all, they're scary. Like unless you're like a rancher,
They're
walking up to a cow,
huge.
they're huge.
No, they will
Like,
trample you. You can't push
you're
them
scared.
over.
No. And they
Yes.
don't. And even if they sleep, like if you walk up to a cow, they don't. Do they even sleep? Like they'll wake up if you walk up to them.
Oh
Right?
yeah, like during the day, they're like animals. They'll go under a tree in the shade and they'll lay down, and yeah, they can snooze, but it's not like they sleeping at night. I mean, they have to stay
Right.
aware. They have to watch out for coyotes. They got to watch out for things that
they
could
do.
bother them.
Yeah, it's such a false cow tipping. It's a folklore. So plan ahead. Like, hey, you don't need to say, you don't need to answer this question. Just kind of putting you on the spot because this is public and there's a chance your kids would listen to this. 0 chance, I'd say. But do you think you and your wife Danny would do anything special for the twins at a certain age? You got any things that?
I mean,
like,
we've never thought about it really,
Yeah.
and I mean, we've just trying to survive as parents. I'm not thinking that far
Yeah,
ahead.
dude.
Okay, so like I just like, but I mean, they're going to be 10. No,
Yeah.
I think they're going to be 10. That's a double digits, a big rite of passage. You hit double digits,
It
and then
is, yeah.
we'll probably do something at 12, 13. I don't know what that is yet, but
Yeah.
we always try to make them feel special, and I
Cool.
got to now really think about what that rites of passage is going to be.
Well, hopefully we'll still be doing this podcast when they turn 12 or 13. And you can tell us and we can go back in time and we can even bring it, like we'll bring clips in from this into that. Here's tip number 2. Use your words to build identity and expectation. Here's what I mean.
That's good. That's good.
It means if you're doing a rites of passage, it's very important that you look at them and you say, look, starting today, you are a young adult. That's how I view you. That's how I'm going to treat you. Starting today, this is how I'm going to look at you differently. And I'm going to expect you to do things differently. You want to build that identity into them. Think of it this way. Your child cannot start acting like a wise, caring, responsible, loving young adult until they believe that they are a loving, wise, responsible, caring young adult. You have to believe you have to believe who you are before you act out of your identity. Right. So, for example, if you believe that you're just a kid and you're 18, I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid, Mom. Mom, you can't do this to me. I'm a senior. I'm a kid.
Right.
Then you will act like a kid. But if you believe, you know what? I am a senior. This is a year for me to really have a great time with my friends, to celebrate the last year of kind of like my high school life. But this is also a year for me to prepare for this next season of my life, to deepen my relationships with my friends, with my parents, to really live a wise lifestyle when so many of my other peers are living very selfishly and carelessly. If you really believe that, then you'll live it out. So
Mm-hmm.
how our kids feel about their identity, really matters. And because a parent's words are so powerful, tip number 2 is use your words wisely to build identity and expectation in your kids.
That's beautiful. That's good. And we got to be wise about what we say. I don't know what I'm going to say yet. Maybe write it down like Sean did. I think that's great because sometimes in the moment you kind of don't get your words together, right? And so like
Yeah.
this plan ahead, step 1, 2, actually writing it down prior to having this meeting or this chat is going to be good.
Yeah. Now, tip number 3, I think, is probably maybe the hardest thing for us parents. And it's what I see many parents struggle with. You ready for this? Parents, tip number 3 on how to thrive with rites of passage is that after that rites of passage event takes place, you have got to change your parenting. Let me explain.
Treating them. So it's a mindset shift,
Yeah.
not just for the kids, but for you
Right.
too as an adult.
Exactly.
As a parent.
Because if you're still treating, if you're still treating your like freshman in high school like a child, like, then what's going on with you? Why even have a rites of passage in the first place? If you're still treating them poorly, treating them like you did when they were, 9 years old, then what's the point of a rites of passage? The purpose of all these beautiful rites of passage is for the whole community to change, not just the child. It's like you've got to think about how are you going to do things differently? How are you going to raise the bar? How are you going to trust them more? How are you going to give them more responsibility? How are you going to talk to them differently? How are you going to engage with them differently? All that stuff makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. We got to do it. We got to step up. Was it hard? I mean, you're the only one here who's gone through a rites of passage. Was it hard for you to switch that parenting mindset?
I don't think for me, just because I don't know much about much, but this is like what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like a big hack that I start doing around age 12 or 13 is I start calling my kids young adults. And I do that for them so they can really see that's how I view them, so they can embrace that identity. But to be honest, I think it's good for me too. It's like that. I'm not like, this is a young adult I'm dealing with here. Like,
right.
I'm not entitled to anything with them. They don't have to like me. They don't have to be close with me. They don't have to respect me. Like, they don't have to genuinely care about me. Like, I've got to earn this and show up. And how I treat this young adult really matters.
That's good. I like that. Thank you. Because we could use that. That's a simple tactic. Just change the verbiage. Boom.
Verbiage.
That's the next
Verbiage.
step. It's important.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, a lot of us are reflecting now, and I'm definitely going to be thinking about what I'm going to do for my kids. Skydiving, bungee jumping like the kids in Vanuatu.
Yeah, dude.
Shout out to the Ethiopian folks who don't cow tip, they cow jump naked over the cows. So
good.
whatever we decide, and maybe people listening have an idea. If you don't mind commenting, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Love to hear your thoughts. Use our listen to this podcast. Go and leave some comments on my social media videos. You'll see it's me with my 12-year-old daughter at the time. So it was 2 or 3 years ago that we took it. And leave some comments about what this episode meant to you, or what rites of passage you're doing, or share your ideas so other parents can read it and see, hey, I want to learn from that. And that'll be my rites of passage. I mean,
if you're offended on the gun talk and you don't want to do the guns, that's fine. But if you want to go skeet shoot, let me know how you did. I think that'd be awesome.
There you go. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's good. Yep. That's a powerful, I like that you said that, because that's just like a driver's license or the rites of passage, you get access to this powerful thing. Access to powerful things is very important. So my attitude of gratitude is this. You know what I'm thinking about right now? I'm thinking about some of the people in my life who really, they were adults. And when I was ages 12 through 16, 17, 18, they loved me and they helped me make that jump into adulthood. I'm thinking about some of my old mentors, Rich and Miles. I'm thinking about my buddy's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Bush, Mr. and Mrs. Hunter. I'm even thinking about your mom, because she really had a big role in my life in my early 20s, just loving me and believing in me in supporting me. And really just thank you to Velvet for just all your support in my life as a young man. How about you? What's your attitude of
That's
gratitude?
beautiful. My attitude of gratitude is being thankful for this country and the fact that we have a blend of all these cultures. And I think
Yes.
it's really cool that we have these different things that we can do to help us, come of age, basically. And I think, when I was a kid, I didn't really think it was cool. I was like, oh, you're doing a bar mitzvah. Oh, you're doing your,
Mm-hmm.
not sweet 16, but I guess, yeah, sweet 16.
Yeah.
You're,
Yeah.
you're, you know, you're doing your quinceanera. Why are you guys doing that? Because I didn't understand that it
I didn't
was
understand
kind
either.
of this. I didn't, and I think it would be very cool if we can make it cool again. If we can make it
Mm-hmm.
big and a big deal.
Yeah,
And
buddy.
so I'm thankful that we have options, and I'm thankful to be here, and I'm thankful for this podcast because I think it's going to open a lot of our minds.